Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Just going to give it a minute or so, just so folks can join in, and then we'll get right into things. Good morning, everyone. Just giving it a minute here for folks to join in, and then we'll get rolling. All right, let's start with some brief introductions here before we get into the presentation. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to ARMA's EPR webinar series. Today's session is the virtual edition of the EPR Community Information Session. My name is Kayla Duty, and I'm a Communications Manager with Canadian Strategy Group. It's my pleasure to serve as facilitator and moderator for today's webinar, and I would like to start us off with a land acknowledgement. ARMA works with Albertans from all areas of our province and acknowledges the Indigenous peoples who lived among and traveled through the land in the area currently known as Alberta. The relationship that peoples of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, Alberta's Métis and Inuit people, have with the land is founded on a deep respect for the environment. This connection forms the foundation of our responsibility and vision of inspiring a future without waste. The webinar today will feature presentations and Q&A sessions from ARMA, the Municipal District of Lesser Slave River, Product Care, Call to Recycle, and Circular Materials. To keep the time moving along nicely today, we're going to be following prior webinar settings where registrant audio functionality has been turned off. So that means to ask a question, we're asking that you use the Q&A chat where questions will be addressed written and both verbally as well. A reminder as well that all of these webinar sessions are being recorded and will be available on the ARMA website afterwards. With that being said, I will now turn it over to Vice President, Extended Producer Responsibility, Gabrielle Betts. Over to you, Gabby.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this virtual session. It's great to see such a strong turnout. This session marks the conclusion of our series of community information sessions that we've hosted throughout the summer. As many of you know, there's been a lot happening at ARMA lately. We are in full swing with our fee development process, and we're actively preparing for a consultation phase. This is a critical step as we work towards ensuring our programs are aligned with both industry needs and community expectations. Additionally, we're entering Phase 7 of ARMA Connect, our integrated registration platform. Many of you are familiar with this. This is a very exciting milestone for us as it represents the significant progress we've made in creating a more connected and efficient system. With that, I'd now like to pass it over to our Director of Client Relations, Gavin Sadhu, who will provide more information about EPR as we continue our journey towards go live in April 1st, 2025.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Gabrielle. We here at ARMA are always grateful for the opportunity to connect with our communities, such as sessions like these. As Gabby mentioned, this is the final installment of our community information sessions. On June 6th, we kicked off the series in Red Deer. On June 20th, we were in Peace River, and on the 25th, we were out in Lethbridge. In these sessions, we provided an overall update on EPR implementation, which we'll also do today, and a focus on the details communities will need to be aware of. The objective of these engagements are threefold. One, we're here to support communities and keep everyone up to date with the latest in EPR implementation. Two, we want to create an opportunity for communities to engage directly with pros. And finally, although this is a virtual session, so maybe less or so in this one, an opportunity for communities to connect with one another. So please take note of any communities you see in the chat and feel free to reach out afterwards. For those who have attended one of these sessions in the past, I did see some familiar faces here today. Some of what you're about to see may be familiar, but we want to ensure that everybody's on the same page before passing it off to the pros. So starting from the beginning, what is EPR? Well, EPR is a new to Alberta environmental and economic policy, which places the responsibility on producers for ensuring that the products they create are properly managed and to the end of the life cycle. Essentially, it means that producers are accountable for the entire life cycle of their products from creation to disposal. In Alberta, there are two streams for EPR. One is PPP, packaging, paper products, and single-use products, and the other is HSP, which is hazardous and special products. Under PPP, this category covers items that we currently recycle through our Blue Cart program, including paper products, single-use items, and flexible plastics, rigid plastics, metal, and glass. On the HSP side, this includes items, some items through the HHW program, which you may be familiar with. These are things like corrosive materials, batteries, flammable, and toxic products. It's important to note that the implementation of EPR does not bring any changes to the existing stewardship program items. The current items and their handling processes will remain as they are, ensuring continuity and stability in waste management. So unlike our role on the stewardship side, ARMA's role in EPR involves third-party oversight. This means we ensure compliance and accountability, providing a neutral perspective that differs from direct program management. Since the regulation came into force in November 2022, a lot of work has been done. For 2023, we focused on standing up ARMA as the oversight organization, developing our bylaws for oversight management, and establishing policies and a registration system. 2024 has entailed registering producers and their pros, as well as receiving their first run of supply reports. ARMA is committed to supporting the development of the PPP and HSP collection systems to serve Albertans. The next major regulatory date that we're all eagerly working towards is April 1st, 2025, when EPR will officially kick off in Alberta. For the two phases of PPP, this slide highlights the staged approach for implementation. For phase 1, we're ramping up for operations towards April 1st. This is an important date for communities that have already registered before December 2023, and for residents and that we're providing recycling service to residents as of November 30th, 2022. Details for residents that the community serviced and whether it was through curbside or depot is important and should be shared with the pros. This will help them understand the service level obligations that they'll need to meet in April. For phase 2, the second phase of commencement is on October 1st, 2026. This is for communities that have registered after December 31st, 2023, or those that registered prior to the date but did not provide recycling services as of November 30th, 2022. The later start date allows more time for planning and execution where existing public recycling systems did not exist. Phase 2 also marks a change for communities that were eligible in receiving recycling depot services under phase 1, but the community provides curbside waste services. PPP recycling services under EPR will be upgraded to curbside to match waste service delivery in October 2026. That's a lot of dates there, so further details about minimum service standards and timelines based on other scenarios can be found in the PPP Collection Service Standards document on our ARMA website. An additional item to highlight under PPP is the service of multi-unit dwellings. Aligning with the timelines we just discussed, for collection for multi-unit in communities registered under phase 1, who currently service these dwellings will begin on April 1st, 2025. Communities would have service information to share with the pros for these units. Where a community registers, but there are multi-units that are currently serviced privately by property owners or building management boards, these units would fall under phase 2 of collection commencement. In contrast to PPP, HSP has one start date, April 1st of 2025. Standards for service are primarily tied to population. For communities with populations less than 1,000 with existing depots, they will continue to use those depots and are eligible for at least one collection event per year. For populations greater than 1,000 but less than 10,000, the requirements are similar. However, for events, there must be at least one per calendar year, and it does not have to be requested. Between 10,000 and 125,000 people, there must be at least one permanent depot. And lastly, for populations equal to or greater than 125,000, the requirement is to have at least one permanent depot for every 125,000 people. Similarly, details about the HSP collection system can be found on the ARMA website. So as we near the critical regulatory launch date, we're focusing on some key activities for the rest of this calendar year. There's a few highlighted here, but I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of key initiatives. In addition to ongoing support sessions like this and our website, phase 2 registration also continues. We were able to reach most Albertan communities in the first phase, and we will continue outreach to those that are still contemplating participation. If that happens to apply to you and you have not yet registered, please feel free to reach out to me directly after this and we'll get you all signed up for phase 2. We want to see all Albertans benefit from recycling under EPR. Number 2 is that fee consultation is underway, which Gabby mentioned earlier. We've had a positive response from producer registration that signifies that they're ready to do their part to ensure EPR will be successful across the province. Fee consultation is underway and will continue for the next couple of months. Finally, on the oversight for regulatory compliance, we will be developing our compliance framework, which includes processes, procedures, and administrative penalty guidelines. This will be a major focus going forward. So nearly 22 months have passed since the announcement of the EPR regulation in October 2022. In that time, we've achieved a variety of different milestones, including that stakeholder collaboration in designing a governance framework that includes our bylaws, policies, and procedures to guide operations of the system. Awareness and positive support from communities with interest to participate and extend service under EPR to their residents, and confidence from producers in our Made in Alberta model, which incorporates lessons learned from other jurisdictions. By strategically phasing development of the registry system, a vital tool to capture compliance data, we were also able to roll out registration to all key stakeholder groups in an expedited manner and under 1 year of the regulation going into effect. We at ARMA are supporting our pros and producers as they work to establish the PPP and HSP common collection system in Alberta. We're also supporting our communities as they take on these negotiations and prepare for council presentations, one via workshop like this, and two via our tools available on the ARMA website. I'd like to specifically call out one item that may be of use as you prepare for your council meetings, which is a starter deck that includes background information about EPR and can be tailored to each community's unique situation. This offers a very beneficial jumping off point, so you're not starting from scratch as you head into those council presentations. We're now reaching a critical milestone where communities are engaging in contract negotiations with their pros. We're supporting communities as they prepare for those negotiations and will continue to do so via our online portal and website. Further, on the website, you will find an EPR Lunch and Learn webinar series that we've been running. All these past sessions are recorded and posted on our website, as will this session today. Lastly, for any communities that have yet to register, as I mentioned, we'd like to highlight that you can do so through our website or reach out to me directly and I can help walk you through that process. Thanks for your time. I believe my colleagues have been, I don't think there's any questions that have actually come up. So with that, I'd now like to welcome Molly Fighton, Director of Strategic Projects and Initiatives for Municipal District of Lesser Slave River, to share her community perspective. Molly, I'll give it over to you and you can share your screen whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Gavin. And thank you to ARMA as well for the opportunity to speak today. Just give me a quick moment to share my slideshow here. Now, can everybody see the screen?
Yes,
Perfect.
we can.
Perfect. Okay, so just to do a quick run through. Yeah, so my name is Molly Fighton, and I'm a director with the MD of Lesser Slave River. And speaking in this presentation today, I'm actually representing the Lesser Slave Lake Regional Waste Management Services Commission. That's quite a tongueful in itself. So I'll get into that a little bit further down the road. And so I just wanted to go over a couple of the background slides. And I know, Gavin, you've already spoken to this quite a bit, so I probably won't touch on this. And I know that John with Circular Materials is on the call, and not to steal his thunder or anything, but I did get this slide from them just to kind of sum up where we are in the process today. So, you know, speaking from the commission, we kind of fall into, I guess what you could say, I guess we're in the agreement approval stage. So knowing that these slides are coming up later, I'm actually going to zoom right through this. So who we are and what we want to do. So as I mentioned, I'm representing the commission, and the MD of Lesser Slave River is the rural area that surrounds the town of Slave Lake itself. The town of Slave Lake is a separate entity from the commission who I'm representing, but we do have representation from both the town and the MD itself on the commission. So you can just see on the map here, here's Slave Lake itself. And so we have a regional landfill, and we have 3 rural transfer stations as well that provide depot collection services. And we also have the Athabasca Regional Waste Management Services Commission as well that falls within our boundaries. However, they own and operate their own regional landfill. We just pay them a requisition. There's a lot going on in our commission, and this is part of the confusion that kicks in with the whole EPR process, which I will speak to. So as I mentioned, we have depot services and with the commission itself, we do not have any curbside collection that is managed right in the town by the town. And they also have a recycling depot. So the town itself is registered for EPR as a separate entity. And then right on our regional landfill site, we have a number of services, recycling services we provide. So essentially collection and baling services when we speak of the PPP component of EPR. And then we also have the HSP collection at our regional landfills and then at all of our depots themselves. We don't have any annual collection events for the hazardous waste side of things. Okay, and this is where I have a video clip. So just bear with me. I am going to be playing just the video a little bit as we speak. So I hope that this is working. I can't see anybody, so if someone could just say, yeah, it's working, that'd be perfect.
It's working,
That
Molly.
looks great.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we're just located, I'd say about 10 kilometers west, I want to say, of the town of Slave Lake. So we have a very large site, as you can see. We have currently 2 landfill cells, actually. We have a typical class 2, and then we also have a class 3 cell that is, when you're looking at this video, I'll say to the left of this, there's a separate entrance. So to the right, you can see our CCAN system, our shelter there. We're zooming in there. So this is our recycling area here. So currently we do a lot of baling, collection, baling, and then we ship out a lot of our products from here. So we have quite a bit of material. I think in the end, about 15,000 tons that comes to our site annually, plus our diversion. So we have a lot of big future plans for our site. We're looking at the feasibility of potentially a class 2 industrial site, just given our location, and we have an abundance of oil and gas activity in our area as well. So we have huge capacity to expand, and so we're really trying to capitalize all of our assets. And so EPR for us is a very exciting thing. It allows us to, as you know, there's a lot of benefits to the EPR program itself, but our overall intent is to actually start working more collaboratively with our neighbors. And I know that as a whole, consistency and standardization across Canada is a huge goal for EPR. So we're really excited to see the good things come out of this program. And it's actually giving us that kind of kickstart to, as I said, capitalize on our assets and then really look down the road as to how we can expand and grow, work together with all of our regional neighbors and try to achieve all of the same common goals through the EPR program. So I think I'll just kind of stop the video here. In this video, I don't really like drone videos taken in the winter. I'd much prefer the summer. But anyways, we got a lot of new things coming up and we're going to be working on doing a lot more of these kinds of things. So I'm going to get back into presentation here. Sorry. Anybody that's done a presentation before knows there's a lot of screens going on here. And I cannot seem to get back into the presentation here. Here we go. Okay. So most recently, I'm trying not to focus too much on what our site does and who we are and more on the EPR, but I do think this is important in terms of how it ties into our experience. So recently through our commission, we've been approved to enhance our current processing system and transform into what I like to call the regional recycling hub. So we are going to be purchasing a horizontal industrial sized baler and constructing a new facility to accept more material. And then, as I said, work more with our neighbors. So we've reached out to a lot of our municipal neighbors and not just the municipal side, there's companies, there's First Nation groups, etc., that we've reached out to say, hey, if we were to set up in this manner, what is the capacity of what you have? Would you look at partnering with us, and so we can do a lot of the services and become more of a regional processor. So that's currently where we are. As I mentioned, we have the class 2 and 3 and potentially in the future a class 2 industrial. So that's still in the works. So, really dialing into the EPR side of it for us, and this is more on our end. This is nothing to do with the ARMA side or the pro side. Commissions can be very confusing just in general. So, as I mentioned, we kind of have two entities, and I like to say we have a third one, which is the commission as a whole. So there was a lot of, do we register as the MD or the commission, and what's the town doing? But the town's kind of separately. However, I still think a lot of room potential to collaborate more with the town, even though we are separate entities. And that's something that I've kind of been discussing with more of the pro side of things. So when EPR first was rolling out, I think like many, we were a little bit like the commissions and the councils, they had some, I don't know, they were kind of uneasy and they were unsure of what the program looks like. Is this just another scam to pass down fees to produce our consumers, etc.? And I think we've kind of cleared up a lot of those misconceptions, and I think everybody's feeling really easy and more so positive with EPR now at this point. So that's a really good thing. For us, we were unsure. Do we make some capital investments? We knew where we wanted to go, but how far do we go down that road without really knowing what our compensation might be or what our role even was? So when we first registered, we registered as a community, and this has recently changed down the road. So there's been a little bit of back and forth, and I've been working with circular materials to make sure that we are, going about this the right way. So we changed this registration later to a processor, given our future plans. And so that it's been a bit confusing for, I think, all of us in terms of changing what we are doing and what we want to do. So the survey data we provided to the pros at the beginning was kind of for both the landfill and the transfer site. So then again, since the transfer stations are technically operated by the MD and the regional landfill is operated and looked after by the commission as a whole, it was a bit confusing for us because we hold that data, but we don't technically, as the commission, own and operate that site. So, but at the end of the day, we are the one to provide that information. So, and some of our information wasn't always necessarily accurately tracked because we never had much of an incentive to do so. So, this is a good thing for us in that case as well. Do we want to continue or do we want to enhance our existing service level? So coming back to how much investment do we make when the future is unknown? So when we started to launch into the recycling hub plans, we shifted from the pause in investing to let's invest, because for us, it was regardless of what happens with EPR, we have a lot of site inefficiencies that we need to address. We were running a very small scale, archaic manual system in terms of our baler and those kinds of things. And so we said, hey, regardless, we need to enhance and make our operations more efficient. So we said, let's go for it. We had a lot of changes in our project scope as we went, as most municipalities know, that's often how it goes. So that led to some more confusion, more on the backside. So as I mentioned, we switched our registration from community processor. And now I'm a kind of person that I overthink everything. And the more questions I ask, the more questions develop in my head. So I'm probably driving circular materials crazy, but we're asking the question now, are we actually a processor? If you look at the definitions, there's a couple different ones, but they are quite vague. So are we a processor? What were we before? Maybe we were a processor before. We were just a small one and now we're becoming a big one. But, does size even matter? Are you a processor or not? I'm not sure. We're still working on some of these questions with circular materials. So we still have a lot to straighten out, in terms of providing the financial information and just overall information to circular materials in general. They're wanting to see information from the processor side that's not really related to collection. So the information we currently have is related to collection. Now we're saying we want to become a full-scale processor, but now we're trying to give information on a system that we don't currently have or know anything about. So it's a narrow focus to a very large scope, and that's a bit confusing on our end to provide that. Financial information, you've been providing this already. Most municipalities have. We have to break down our GLs and really drill into that. And that's where I'm seeing all of the mistakes and other things as well, that, oh, well, we are coding incorrectly. We're putting things in the wrong places. We probably don't have the right GL set up. So, I'm also driving the commission crazy on the back end with that as well. But I'm trying to look at it as a good thing. We really need to straighten this out going forward regardless. So EPR is kind of giving us that push to make sure that our I'll say reporting and data tracking is more accurate. For us, it's a little confusing with the commission as well. The commission itself has a budget, but then the MD also has a separate budget just for those transfer stations. So, the commission represents the MD. So if we're making financial agreements with the pros and we receive that compensation, does the compensation come to the commission? And from there, we juggle our budget in the background and then trickle down that money to the MD, or does the money stay with the commission? There's a lot of questions that's a little bit confusing in my head, and maybe it's just on our end, but those are the things we have to work on. I looked through the compensation sheets provided by the pro, and some of the things I looked at is those allocations. So if your site services other things, of course, not just PPP, for dealing with other things such as the HSP as well, how can we properly allocate some of those overall financial numbers so that we're adequately or accurately showing how much PPP costs for us? So with the audited statements, we don't really get that breakdown. So we're kind of having to cross-reference and make sure we're providing the right information. So I talked a lot about this already. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way, that's why. Then we were informed that we needed to have a motion from council or commission for the pros. And, for us, at first I didn't realize that this was only for the collection service side of things. I think this has since been cleared up, but you need a motion if, you're not operating your own sites. So I think that's something that circular materials might speak to as well. Areas of overlap, I wanted to touch base on that. As I mentioned, the town is a separate registration, but I think it's important for the pros and getting into this a little bit more with product care as well, and talking with Kelly. The town's going to get compensated for their HSP material and how they collect that. Then at the end of the day, a lot of that has been already brought to us as a landfill. So then how are we compensated in a way that nobody's duplicating those, financial payments or efforts? So I just like to bring that up as a commission. If you have that same situation, I do think it's important behind the scenes to work together on separate entities and how those will work. Compensation for upcoming capital purchases is another thing that, we're a bit unsure of. So we have the plans for a regional recycling hub, and we made the decision to launch into that regardless of what happens with EPR. But at the same time, we're trying to do it in a way so that of course, any compensation we can get for plans that are specific for PPP, we want to have that financial assistance. So, but it's at that point where we're still making those decisions. Like, is circular materials going to contract to the commission for this to begin with? It needs to make sense for everybody, which we understand. And we're being told, we're not sure what that compensation is going to look like for the capital purchases at this point. So there's a little bit still unknown for us, as there is for still others as well. And it is up to, of course, the pro to determine if it's going to financially and logistically make sense to contract to the municipality or the community or the processor, right? So for us, of course, we would love to be a contractor. We've made that decision a long time ago that the more control and continuation we can have of our local services and our local pride, the better. EPR really only results in additional revenue for us, regardless of if we're a community or processor. But of course, the more we can demonstrate that, the more support we get from our commission in terms of our future plans and initiatives. So continuing to increase our capacity, I think EPR really allows us to do that. And it encourages neighbors to work together, and even within your own municipalities, if you're a commission, I think that's going to kind of be the push to work together more closely. And of course, with that comes economy of scale. There's a lot of benefits of EPR, and at this point in the game, I don't need to lay out any of these. I think we're all aware of what EPR is going to bring us, and now it's just a matter of working through the hoops that are ahead, and we're even getting through that pretty successfully, I'd say. So as I mentioned, for us, it's an encouragement to enhance our budget process. So we want to make sure that we're setting this up so that for EPR purposes, it's making sense, it's accurate. It'll help us with our future budgeting as well. So this is a really good thing. We want to continue to keep services as local as possible, work closely with the residents and have more communication with them. So I think this all is a win-win for us and the pros. There has been tons of education outreach sessions offered. So I just wanted to give a kudos to ARMA and circular materials. I have just started to work more with product care, and I haven't really worked with Call to Recycle yet, but I can say that all the stakeholder groups involved in this process have been absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of unknowns for them, as there are for the municipalities and the other groups. So I think, we're really working on this together. We are all in the same boat. There are a lot of unknowns, but you just need to be okay with not knowing. For me, that's a hard thing. I have a hard time letting go and not being in the details and knowing everything. But I've had to just say, hey, kind of like a Jesus take the wheel kind of thing. I had to just say, they're here to help us. They're not going to leave us stranded. And so I want to thank everybody on this call in terms of the stakeholders helping with the process. So for us, we need to sit down more with circular materials and continue the conversations in terms of our compensation and the process itself. We've had a lot of one-on-one meetings with them. We're fine-tuning all of our GL information, supplying any additional information, which I gave what we have, but there's a lot of unknowns, right? So we're doing and we're providing what we can. Waiting for the decision with the pro to see, hey, are we going to be a contractor? And if not, maybe we have to rejuggle our position in this whole process. Maybe we need to go back to the community status. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like. We're still working on drafting those agreements, financial offers, and then of course I'll have to take all of this back to the commission and get their green light and their go ahead. And they've been really supportive, which is good. So we're going to continue to stay informed as we are in these sessions. They've been absolutely fantastic. The pro sessions have been fantastic as well, and I really love that we're doing these also together. And then so next step for us too is we've just started to enter the conversations with Product Care on what the HSP services will look like. So looking forward to that as well. And that's all for me. I don't know if there's any questions, and I can stop sharing.
I don't think I see any questions there in the Q&A, but just a reminder to folks that that's an option if you wanted to get any questions down for Molly. We'll be keeping an eye on that as we kind of go through. So get those questions in there. But in the meantime, that was great, Molly. Thank you so much for that. That was a really great presentation and super informative. So with that, now we'll be turning it over to Kelly Lee, Program Manager with Product Care, who will be updating on their work.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
It says that it started screen sharing, but I'm just seeing black on my end. There we go. Perfect. It's loaded up now. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for having me here. So as just mentioned, we were at the Lethbridge session, Peace River and Red Deer before, and I'm really happy that we can discuss with every one of you for this virtual session for the HSP program in Alberta. So about Product Care, we are a not-for-profit pro, the producer responsibility organization. We make sure that our producers are compliant, whose products are designated under the EPR laws. And our members are usually manufacturers, retailers, and distributors. And we're the approved pro for HSP after we register with ARMA. And we just finished the celebrating of the 30 years of the EPR success at Product Care. So as you can see, we have programs all over Canada, and for like paint program, HSW, HSP programs, lights programs, and also smoke and CO alarms programs. And we also have some programs running in USA as well. So the scope of the HHW and HSP products, they would vary a lot by provinces. For example, in BC, we launched the HHW program back in 1997. And in Yukon, Alberta, we're going to launch this program in 2025. And okay. So for these program products as a pro, we fund the program products, we collect, transport, and manage the program products. And we also do the public education and outreach, and we would contract with the for the collection services like the sites or events. We may also contract with haulers and recycler and waste management for post-collection material management. And we would do the annual reporting to make sure that our member producers are compliant. And for the program funding, so we would collect the environmental handling fees from our members, the EHF. It is generally shown as a separate visible fee, and the typical range of the fees are from 1 cent to $6 per container size. And the majority of the fee that we charge the member producers is less than $2.50. The reason is that the product price is usually less than $25. And we estimated this revenue for the Alberta HSP program based on the Manitoba's HHW program prorated by the population. And we saw that the revenue is about less than $500,000. So as you can see from this chart, compared to electronics and PPP, it's a much smaller program in terms of the revenue. And also, like as we've already been notified, the paint-related solvents and strippers, those products would remain in the ARMA's paint stewardship program. So that would impact the revenue to some extent as well. Okay, so for communities who have registered with ARMA before or on December the 31st, 2023, we will be working with you and provide the April 2025 service. And for the other communities who are registered with ARMA after that date, then it may have to wait for like up to 2 years before receiving the service. And for registered communities, we've been working with you so that you could provide additional information either through the Product Care's Alberta webpage or through the offline discussions. So the HSP is not a PPP. It is not a HHW either. It is a subset of HHW. And the HSP products are the consumer-sized solids, liquids, and gaseous products, and the containers for flammables, corrosives, domestic pesticides, and toxics. The maximum container sizes for these products are 10 liters or 10 kilograms or less for liquids or solids, 680 grams or less for pressurized containers, and 25 liters or less for gasoline. So the products containers have to display the CCCR hazard symbols, which is the Consumer Chemicals and Containers Regulations, the CCCR symbols. So one of those 4. And there's one exception. So for the 25 liter or less for gasoline, those containers do not bear the CCCR symbol, but then they're still HSP because there's no CCCR symbol on the jerry can usually. And the HSP program excludes products that are meant for disposal down the drain, and also products that are intended for industrial usage. So here are some examples. Like for flammables, the left one is it has no CCCR flammable symbol, and also it's a paint-related thinner, so it's not HSP. The right one, it has a CCCR flammable symbol, it is HSP. And for corrosives, the left one, it has a CCCR corrosive symbol, but it's intended for down the drain, so it is not HSP. The right one, it has a CCCR cross-up symbol and is not intended for down the drain as its primary usage, therefore it is HSP. And for pesticides over here, the left one, it has a toxic CCCR symbol, that's a check mark. It has a dangerous signal word, that's a check mark, but it has no PCP number, which is the Pest Control Products Regulations number. So therefore, this one is not HSP. The right one, it has a toxic CCCR symbol. It is domestic class, it has a dangerous signal word, and it has a PCP number. Therefore, this one is an accepted HSP. So the other non-HSP products are, for example, the paint, the first one, and then the second, the paint-related thinners and solvents. These are belong to ARMA's paint program as well. And the unlabeled containers, these are not HSP. And for the fourth one, it has no CCCR symbol. It's also not HSP. So the key decisions for communities would be, will you continue to collect all HHW, or do you want to transition to collect HSP only? So we've discussed with over 180 communities. Most of the communities would prefer to continue to collect all HHW products with a commingle option. And so our approach is that we initially want to focus on standing up this program and then continuously improve it. We want to do as minimal disruption as possible to communities and residents with seamless transition and also no change from residents' standpoint. So product care will not be dictating hours of operation, and then we intend to start with the same level of services of the registered communities. By the same level, we mean it's either equal services or better services. So for communities, you will continue to contract with your service providers, and product care will contract with you to provide the collection service. And we will continue the discussions with you, the registered communities, and also the service providers. So here's the material flow of the HSP products. Like, it gets produced by the producer, it gets shipped to the retailer, and then sold to consumers, and then consumers would return them after usage to the community HSP depots or events, and then those products will be transported by the service provider to the processing facilities. And for the money, it flows in a way that the producers, as product care's members, that would remit EHFs to product care recycling, and then the communities are contracting with service providers, and the community would pay the service provider so that the service provider would provide transportation and processing services. And then communities will be claiming the cost for HSP with supporting documents to product care. So we will use the EHFs that we collected from producers to pay the communities. Okay. Regarding the collection services agreement, this has been the focus of most of the calls with communities lately. So we have a standard collection service agreement, and we will require this agreement to be signed together with the registered communities, and we will be reimbursed communities post the collection costs. So a lot of questions have been regarding when the collection post the collection compensation offer is going to be announced. So for that one, as we just mentioned, because the revenue is fairly small, it takes much longer to to model this EHFs and compensation model. So and compensation offer. So we are going to, so our finance team and accounting team is currently working on that. And once we have this compensation offer done, we will communicate with all communities as soon as possible. And for this, regarding this compensation, some necessary information I would like to share is that it is going to be based on the HSP over HSW split. So it will be volume based, and it's similar to the other HSP programs that we run in the other jurisdictions. And for the submissions, it would need some supporting documents to be provided to us together with the claims. And then for the submission, it will be monthly. And the HSP and HSW split, that will be based on the waste audit sampling. And for material management, so once we have the detailed material management reporting requirements, and then we will work together with service providers and communities to make sure that we have the material management reports done. And then for the agreement, as I just mentioned, we've discussed with a few selected communities before for a few rounds. So we're having a standard collection agreement. And then we really hope that we can share this agreement with communities very soon. Okay. So for the sampling, this sampling is a common practice with the other HSP and HHW that we run across Canada, and it's a preferred method. So it will be done annually, so either at one or more service provider locations. And the sampling performed will be performed per product category, and its results will be shared with communities and applied in the whole province. And so how it works is that usually we would sample it in the first year, and the results will be applied to the following year's collection volumes. Okay, so for promotion and education, we are leveraging the experience in other programs as well. So we're not intending to brand our company or HSP. Instead, we would work with communities, and communities may continue to promote your HSW services. And what we're going to do is that we will most likely just include some information in your promotion and education to the consumers, with adding one link. And with that link, the consumers can click on that link and go to Product Care's webpage, where they could just simply type in their postal code, and then they can find the surrounding HSP locations where they can return those products to. And also they can find the other information regarding HSP if they're interested. So with this, we're trying to seek the synergies and collaboration with communities on it, and to avoid and minimize the confusion to our residents. So for the collection sites and events on that I just mentioned, we will be maintaining the database so that it's always updated. And when consumers click on that site, they can get the accurate location of those depots and events where they want to return the products to. So we understand that each community is very unique, and you may have different considerations, and we look forward to connecting with all of you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to contact me either at my own email address or at alberta@productcare.org. So thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Thanks so much, Kelly. That was great. I don't see any questions here in the Q&A. So I think that will be good to have our next presenter join us here. And any questions that pop up in the Q&A that are relevant to you, we'll be sure to flag them for you. So now with that, we're going to turn it over to Jason Brown, Director of Program and Project Management with Call to Recycle, to share an update as well. Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to get my screen shared here. Okay, can you see my screen?
It looks like we can also see the other, it's not a full screen setting, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. One moment. Here we are.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We are Call to Recycle, and we are the Household Battery Producer Responsibility Organization. And I'm Jason Brown. I'm the Director of Program and Project Management. So to start, I'll just give a quick overview of who Call to Recycle is. We are Canada's leading national consumer battery recycling organization, and we do operate as a not-for-profit on behalf of our over 400 members. And our goal is to safely maximize the diversion of batteries from landfills through an extensive and convenient collection network, and communities are a key part of that. So Call to Recycle is the approved battery program in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and PEI. And we're also a registered pro in Ontario for consumer batteries under 5 kilograms. Something quite unique is we've actually been running a voluntary program in Alberta since 1997. And currently we have approximately 400 collection sites in Alberta, and that's predominantly on the retail side. Sites such as Best Buy, Staples, Rexall, Canadian Tire, Home Depot. You can actually find our collection boxes in many of those retail locations, and we'll also be expanding on regulated launch. On a national scope, we have over 12,000 collection sites, and we continue to grow. We have the highest level of safety, compliance, and performance, and we're committed to operating a safe, free, and best-in-class turnkey program. And what that means for you is that it's a very streamlined and simple process, and I'll elaborate as I go on here. We also have 5 rigorous global standards. We're certified R2 for responsible recycling. We have our ISO 1401 designation for environmental management. We have ISO 4501 for occupational health and safety, ISO 9001 for quality management systems, and ISO 2701 for information security. And I'm very pleased to say that as of this year, we have diverted more than 46 million kilograms of batteries from Canadian landfills, and we hope to exponentially increase that in the future. So this is a nationwide map of our regulated programs. As I mentioned, we have existing regulated programs in BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, PEI. And I'm happy to announce that as of July 1st, we also launched our program in Nova Scotia. As you all know, we're going to be launching our regulated battery HSP program on April 1st, 2025 in Alberta. And also happening in Q2 of 2025 is our regulated launch in the Yukon. And we also expect in early 2026 to be launching in New Brunswick. So as you can see, battery EPR has basically swept across Canada, and we're very pleased to see that. It's been a proven system to help increase collection rates. So I'd like to touch on accepted program materials for a moment here. So we do accept standalone and replacement household dry cell batteries weighing less than 5 kilograms. So that is the weight threshold per unit. On the rechargeable side, we accept nickel metal hydride, nickel zinc, lithium ion, and nickel cadmium. And on the single use or primary side, we accept alkaline and lithium primary, as well as silver oxide, zinc air, and zinc carbon. I should note that small sealed lead acid batteries are not regulated, and so they are not part of the accepted program materials at this point in time. I'd like to touch on e-transport batteries for a moment. They are typically large format lithium batteries. So these batteries are larger and more powerful and involve more risk than typical consumer batteries. Called a recycle ensures that e-transport batteries are responsibly managed at the end of their life. We have special collection receptacles for these batteries specifically, which any site can order free. We'll provide to your collection site. So we accept and recycle lithium batteries used to power, e-bikes, e-skateboards, e-scooters, and hoverboards. And we've noticed a trend that all of these devices have become more and more popular over time. So we're expecting more of these batteries that come into your collection systems as well. And I should also mention for a moment here, outside of the regulated programs, we have been operating an EV battery pilot program on behalf of the original manufacturers across Canada. So we've been leveraging our expertise to safely and responsibly power the transition to electrified transportation through a range of EV battery services. So our expansion into electric vehicle batteries has covered pickup, transportation, recycling, management and reporting, and thought leadership. And to date, we've managed approximately 250 electric vehicle batteries. And we know that there is plenty of discussion on that in the future. So certainly stay tuned. I'd like to touch on our collection receptacles for a moment. So for lower volumes, we have what are called our nested boxes, and these are provided free of charge. We have an auto refillment system for any boxes that have been shipped out, and we also provide on request. So essentially the way this works is that we have a slightly smaller box nested in a slightly larger box, and both boxes have fire retardant lining. They're very easy to set up. You simply separate the boxes, you unfold the flaps, and any batteries can simply be placed inside. Any batteries that are lithium-based or alkaline 12 volt or higher. We have sealable bags that come with the box for terminal protection. The batteries can then be co-mingled in the box itself. Nice and simple and straightforward. The maximum capacity of these boxes is 25 kilograms. So once you've reached that maximum capacity or 1 year of accumulation has passed, then it is ready to be prepared to ship. You could also ship earlier if you want. That's just recommended. So you simply fold down all the tabs and tape it up. And the boxes actually come with a prepaid, pre-addressed return shipping label. Typically, we work with Purelator on these smaller volumes, but we can also work with existing service providers as well. We don't want to interfere with any relationships that your communities have with your service providers. So we're very happy to streamline the process and make the transition as easy as possible. In addition to our nested box program for smaller volumes, we also have solutions for bulk shipping. So predominantly, we use our bulk box program. So we can provide a pallet of approximately 25 boxes to your location. Once the boxes are full, simply shrink wrap the pallet with the boxes and contact the service provider for pickup. And we're also very happy on the operations side to help on this front. In addition, if you currently collect with UN-rated steel drums with plastic liners or with UN-rated polyethylene drums, we can service those as well. So you simply make sure that you have a drum that has an open head with a lever locking ring and is stored in a cool, dry place. And again, we will help service that as well when you are ready. I should also mention that, yes, we do compensate, and it is a straightforward process because the scope of products is a little bit lower. It is easier to manage. So the way that we compensate is on a per kilogram basis, regardless of chemistry, which makes it very easy. So essentially, when when the batteries are collected, they then are sent to sorters, and the sorters verify the quantities and basically transfer the payment to the community. So it's a nice straightforward process. Calder Recycle also leads in battery safety solutions through ongoing investment in innovative solutions and collaboration with many, many stakeholders. We champion safe and responsible battery management. Safety is at the core of everything we do. We have comprehensive safety training and resources, whether it be our website through best practice guides or through our in-person training. We have a lot of solutions. We also spend a lot of time on collection receptacle design and features. I've mentioned our boxes, but I'll also be mentioning some of our other receptacles in a further slide here. We also very actively work with communities and emergency responders. We work with many, many fire departments, and we work on knowledge transfer, sort of a shared knowledge transfer between us to sort of discuss trends and make sure that locations have DDR kits, for example. So we also provide these DDR kits for free, and therefore damaged, defective, and recalled batteries. So certain batteries do need more attention occasionally. So essentially, we have special receptacles for these batteries for safe storage and transport, and we can provide these DDR kits to your sites for free and on request as well. And we're also prepared for high volume management if there's battery recalls, things along that line. Typically, we work with members on that front. We also spend a lot of time on thought leadership. So we do publish a lot of resources, and we do collaborate with like-minded organizations. And on the safety training and guidance front, I should also mention we're currently working on a new safety campaign, and that will be ready for launch in Alberta as well. So we're very happy about that. I'm also very happy to say that we had a recent consumer brand launch this year. So communities and service providers and regulators know us as Calder Recycle, but the name Calder Recycle doesn't mean all that much to a typical consumer. They may not see the name on a daily basis. So what we did is we launched our new consumer brand, which is also a call to action and a very clear message. And that consumer brand is Recycle Your Batteries Canada, with the web address recycleyourbatteries.ca. Very straightforward. We have a consumer-facing website, and we also have a website for service providers and communities and members. So we separate those streams to make it very clear. As part of that consumer brand launch, we also have been launching new education and awareness campaigns. So we've actually been running quite a few ads. One ad I'll just mention here, and you could also see on our website, is called Decisions. And it basically addresses the household decision to store batteries rather than throw them in the garbage. And because batteries are such a small form factor, garbages really are the main competition. We want to make sure that consumers know it's very easy to store and recycle their batteries. And so this really drives that point home in a sort of fun way. Also featured in the ad is our smart container, which you can see in the background there. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a further slide. But essentially, they're going to be deployed at as many retail locations as possible, making it very convenient for consumers to drop off batteries when they're doing their shopping. I should also mention that we have quite a few partnerships. So we've actually partnered with the CFL, and athletes have basically been promoting battery recycling and sort of educating the consumer. And we also just recently announced a new brand ambassador, the Canadian soccer player, Christine Sinclair. So expect to see ads and promotion on that front as well. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to play, but it's short, so hopefully it's not too choppy. Actually, I don't believe I have audio, so I'm just going to go ahead and proceed to the next slide here. Moment. Just going to advance to the next slide. Here we are. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so our collection plan for Alberta, what does that look like? So on the collections front, we will be working with private commercial partners. So not just publicly available sites, but any businesses or locations that want to provide collections for their employees or for anyone who might work there or occupy the area. So, you know, any like student facilities or businesses, we provide collection boxes to them as well. The main difference is that they are not posted online. So the public won't be coming into their businesses if they don't want that. We will be rolling out with municipal and community partners, absolutely. We are also going to be expanding our retail partner footprint as well. I mentioned that we do have 400 locations currently. We will be expanding that throughout Alberta. We've recently been in discussion with Calgary Co-op, for example. We want to make sure that we have as many local partners as well, not just national chains. We will also be deploying additional business development and looking for any opportunities to expand collection. Convenience is key, and we want to make sure that Alberta has a best-in-class system. We are very dedicated to expanding as much as possible. On the marketing and PR plan side, we will be doing traditional media, including newsprint, radio, and TV. We also be expanding through digital campaigns, so Google AdSense, social media, and the likes. We also very much believe in community partnerships. So we want to work with you in what makes sense for your community. There is no one-size-fits-all option. So we really enjoy special events. In many of the provinces, we have partners known as Earth Rangers, where essentially this group comes into schools and teaches them about battery recycling. And they also bring in animals and make it very engaging for the children. And they also bring in their batteries as well. And you'd be amazed at how resourceful they are as well. We also do live radio. We have home collection cubes. So on the right side of the slide here, you'll see this, the cube, the blue cube. So we can actually work with your community and provide collection cubes to you for distribution to households. And essentially, this is a small receptacle that households can place their end-of-life batteries. And there's instructions on how to recycle and where to recycle as well. So it's a nice, easy, convenient, visible container with clear instructions to help drive home recycling. We also work a lot on innovation. So you'll see our smart container on the right side of the screen there. That is a recent introduction. Essentially, it has a smart lid and it has a SIM card in it. So we actually have updates on the fill rate, any thermal events, anything like that. We can actually provide real-time updates to anyone who wants the updates that runs the collection site or ourselves. We also have proactive pickup service. I'm also happy to mention that we have had a few curbside pickup pilots. As I mentioned, convenience is key, and there's nothing more convenient than collection at the residence itself. So we're happy to work with municipalities who are interested. Essentially, we would choose a few days of the year, and we would be working with your existing service provider. It takes up only a small footprint, and we would cover any incremental costs. So we're certainly happy to have those discussions as we roll out the program. And as I mentioned, our smart containers, we have been rolling these out as of last year. They do have the SIM card and the automatic fill indicator. And these are top of the line, a new innovation, and you will be seeing these at most retail sites near you. So any of your grocery shopping chains, you know, home hardware locations, electronics shops, any location like that. So we want to make this as easy as possible. So that concludes my presentation. If you have not heard from us yet, please contact Chad Musa, our account manager at cmusa@calderrecycle.ca. We have been ramping up our account management team after our launch in Nova Scotia. So if you want, please reach out to us. Otherwise, we'll be reaching out to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. No questions in the chat, but I did receive one direct question that I'll pass along for you. Just wanted to see if there was any update on how the national campaign for the Recycle Your Batteries Canada is going, if there's any updated metrics, and if there's been an uptake on battery recycling from your perspective as a result.
Oh, that's a great question. So I think I could share metrics in the near future, certainly, and maybe I could work with your team to sort of share those after the presentation as well. The general feedback we've gotten is that it's a lot clearer, the messaging. It has been very, very encouraging to hear. Again, I think there is a bit of a disconnect between the name of a pro and what we do. And so the call to actions really helped.
Perfect. Thank you. Back to you, Kayla.
Great, thank you. As Gavin said, I don't see any other questions there in the Q&A. So I think we'll move on next to the next presenter. Jason, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. And that brings us to last but not least, we have John Inrig, Managing Director, Alberta and Yukon with Circular Materials. And he'll be providing us an update on community outreach. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kayla. Hopefully everybody can see my screen.
It looks like it's doing something similar in that we have a half screen. So I think we'll need the full.
Doesn't like us today.
Yeah, it's being finicky.
Still giving you a half screen, or is it back up?
I'm still seeing the half screen. I think, yeah, it's under display settings. It's showing the presenter view.
If you just go display settings and then swap slideshow and presenter screen, should do it.
and I'm frozen. That. Not sure why she doesn't want to work for me here.
John, if it's helpful, I can share my screen for you.
Sure, if you've got it handy, it doesn't want to connect back. So yeah, that would be helpful, Gavin.
Sure, just 1 second.
Yeah, maybe just go to slide 3 if we can, Gavin. That'd be great, buddy. Sorry to do that. Yeah, just wanted to do it a little bit differently to this morning. And obviously, I know we've kind of gone through with the other pros a little bit about what they're doing, who they are. We want to spend some time. I know we've had a lot of engagement with the community, so thought it would be good to just give some more scope on the status, a little bit of where we are on the community engagement as well. And I think we're just switching to something else there, Gavin. Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, 1 second.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and then we'll touch on a little bit. I mean, Molly did a great job, obviously talking about processing. So we'll give a little bit of an update there. I want to give some context and hopefully help as well. And then we'll kind of just get into some other details. So, yeah, again, not going to spend a lot of time on this. I think everybody that's on this webinar is very familiar with kind of who we are, but I always want to mention it for anybody that's new or isn't aware. We are a not-for-profit, and our role as a pro or producer responsibility organization is to continue to support producers in meeting those EPR compliance obligations, and that's specifically for us for PPP or packaging and paper across Canada. So, you know, a lot of different things that tie into that. We've been doing this in a couple of different ways for a long time. Obviously, a lot of experience within the team, talking about the systems that we've used, utilizing obviously from a reporting standpoint, making sure that you know, the reporting, the transparency is there. And hopefully, as we've had these discussions and we touched on GLs and costs, those are things that are obviously really important to us, is to be as transparent as possible and have open dialogue. So again, those have been good so far. I'll touch on a little bit more about the steps as we kind of get into more of the presentation. So just really briefly kind of touch on the timelines as well as the team already mentioned. We're in our stage here. I'll just touch on the second bullet point, which is really where we've been spending a lot of time this year developing our collection and management plan. So that's all about engaging with the communities, people on this call to understand, to learn about their operations, the facilities, having a lot of promotion education activities within the communities. We did submit our verification plan back in April. Really, this is all of that work, which is continuing on, is to kind of build out towards that phase 1 launch that we're all getting ready for, and for April 1st. And then I didn't put any details in our phase 2 because, again, that's a big project that we're going to be getting into, but our focus right now is kind of planning ahead for phase 1. So just some updates, kind of where we are. We had 232 communities that registered for PPP. There's 381 producer registrants. You heard Molly touch on processing. We had over 40 processing facilities registered through ARMA as part of this. We still even get requests kind of time to time now asking about potentially being a processor. So a lot of conversations to come on that. And again, a lot of discovery meetings from our P&E or promotion and education team. And 118 of those have been completed. You'll hear a lot, for those that aren't familiar, opting in, opting out. Opting in means we're going to be how we're contracting. So for the curbside communities, specifically on the bottom left, 53 have opted in and 33 have opted out. And what that just means is we're going to contract directly through the community with their incumbent. We would, if they opt out, we would directly look at contracting with their incumbent service provider. And this is specifically for curbside collection. So again, I want to thank everybody, those on the call that got that confirmation into us. It's really helpful as we continue to plan out the next steps. Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, so again, just all about timing. We always talk about kind of walking it backwards from that April 1st launch date and the things that we need to all kind of get done together. So we've got a couple of pieces which are our deadlines, some community deadlines. Coming up right now is processing information. So that includes indicative pricing that we're looking to have over this week is kind of our deadline there. The modeling and the material flows, kind of drafting our RCT or receiving consolidation, transfer, and PCF agreements. That is planned to have by September 30th. One of the things that, again, Molly touched on a lot of good pieces that I know have come up from other communities. The deadline that we have for opt-in community agreement approval from council is October 31st. And that it does not mean every single community needs and requires council approval. But those that do, that's our deadline to be able to kind of get that confirmation, build out those contracts. November 15th is our confirmed estimate to have those tonnage to be RCT processed from communities. One thing I'll touch on that was brought up is timing. I'd like to know where we're going to process things for, who's going to do the processing. That is something that our team is actively doing. They've been meeting. We've been doing that over the course of the last year. The challenge, of course, for us is that we need the community agreements, all of those pieces to be done, opting out or opting in, so we know exactly in each region how much material, where it's going currently. And once we have those contracts, then we can determine where things are going to be processed. That's a bit of the challenge sometimes. And I know Molly touched on some frustration on being able to know all these things. That's why we need to confirm our opt-in agreements, get those solidified so that we know and we can confirm how much material and where it's going to go. So that's a big part of the project for us, is to get that first piece done, to then be able to determine where things are going to be able to be processed efficiently and effectively. So again, a lot of work to be done there, but we're getting closer to it. And then obviously all of this is getting to November 30th to have all those contracts executed and in time to launch for April 1st. So just kind of some specific updates that we wanted to touch on, and the piece on the left is all the things that have been completed. So we've drafted the MSA and the SALs. We've sent those out to communities for feedback. We've had discovery meetings and engagement with all of the first phase 1 communities. We've also completed, as I mentioned, 118 P&E discovery meetings. Those will continue. So appreciate everybody's time. I know we're kind of coming at it from different angles. Sometimes it's the same person in a smaller community that we're reaching out multiple times. But again, it's all about us understanding your unique needs, your unique community, and what we can do to kind of build that out. The opt-in and opt-out decisions have been all received. So again, appreciate everybody being able to provide that over to us. And now we're engaged directly with each community and also with our the third-party service incumbents as well. That's specific, as I mentioned, for curbside collection. And then we have got feedback on the draft SALs and MSAs from communities. And then we've also reviewed that. What is still standing is just waiting on legal review. We had a bunch of feedback, hoping to have stuff confirmed this week. We had a couple pieces on how we're managing the details for ICI. That's the only piece that's we had come back. So we should have those out very shortly, anytime it goes to legal, as you can all appreciate. I couldn't give you a time at 2 p.m. tomorrow it will come, but I am hoping it's very, very soon. And we are completed on that side, just waiting on final confirmation, and then we'll post and send those out. We've started our compensation offers. So we started distributing the curbside collection compensation offers out to communities that sent in their full GL. We've had those meetings as of August 21st. More coming out again kind of every day, and we'll continue to build that out. The SALs, the curbside SALs and depots, the SALs will be submitted final versions by September 16th. We're just waiting, as I mentioned, on a couple pieces there. I'm hoping that's sooner, but we will mention that. All of this to align to the contract executions by the end of November. As I mentioned, the other pieces there on timelines. One of the pieces I'll mention, we talked about general ledger information that was due to CM by Monday this week. we've got most, so I appreciate it. I know it's not easy, and Molly touched on it earlier. Sometimes communities actually are seeing a couple things. They've never had to pull processing separately or have to look at things a little bit differently. I appreciate Molly saying it was a good thing. Maybe they found some learnings. I've actually heard that from a couple of communities, and that was not the intent, but obviously the more we can get cleaned up, it's better for us, it's better for the communities, so we can continue to kind of get these next steps going. As I mentioned, we started getting those financial offers out. Our goal is to have them all done by September 16th for those that sent us their full GLs. I think there's just maybe 10 or 11 that have not been able to send those in. So we'll obviously keep connecting. If there's questions, concerns, please reach out to us. You've got our email there, aboperations@circularmaterials.ca. September 16th is also the deadline that we have for any revision of opt-in decisions, meaning if you want at that point to opt out, that September 16th timeline would be kind of that last opportunity. I know there's been a few communities that have asked that, depending on council and depending on those pieces, is there something we can do? We're always going to connect. We're going to collaborate as best we can. But as I mentioned, it's all about working backwards for us to get everything contracted. Everything goes into being able to be launching successfully and implementing the program. So these are why we're kind of going into a bit more of these timelines. Again, October 31st, council approval, and then our deadline for executed contracts, November 30th. The sooner we get these things, the sooner we can talk about processing, the sooner we can get these offers out. And our goal obviously is the more we get this for opting in, we can get the communities set up in time, completely clear. So appreciate everybody's time already trying to get as much information to us as possible. We've found that a lot of GLs are different, and that's okay. And the more you have, send us. If you aren't sure, we would just say, send us what you have and we'll talk through, and we'll try to make sure that we can help support on maybe some of those communities that need a bit of help on allocation and how we talk through it. But we're here to do that. We're here to support and collaborate on that step. The process for those that haven't gone through it, just really quick, for opting in communities on curbside, they would review the compensation methodology. That's what we would ask the community to continue to do. That's the most helpful way to kind of see what we need, and then submit that general ledger over to us. We would review the community information, typically 5 to 6 days, and then we'll reach out, typically just via email, saying here's a couple of questions that we have for individual GL. Community would then respond back, hopefully again a couple of days, just on usually it's just a few pieces that we need clarification on. And then we would set up another meeting. We have noticed there's some people brought in, maybe it's finance team members, other people within the community that haven't been involved, and that's great. Bring them in. We want to be able to talk through the finances, make sure that everybody's aware of what we're looking to do and how we're trying to do it. Again, meetings have been really good so far, and we want to continue to get this updated and support the communities on these next steps. The goal is then to get those compensation offers when we're done that. Typically, that's a 6 to 10 business day from there. So again, September 16th is our plan. We're working towards as best we can. Meetings are coming, compensation offers are going. But if you haven't sent it in, please do so today, tomorrow. We just really want to get these things done so we can get these offers out in time. And just really briefly, again, for the depots, there's more. I know there's some questions of where we are. I've mentioned the types, so kind of a classification piece. We're trying to simplify this to community bins that are ungated, any landfill or transfer stations with a depot, eco centers, and then a staffed or a gated depot as well. So just to kind of help with classification, we are sending some information out, and I know some of you, we've already talked about it the last few days. Some of you have been receiving some questions about your specific depot. So I'll touch on that in a second here. Again, overview. I think most of you have seen this, and apologies again. I think, Gavin mentioned this earlier. We've had multiple meetings on this. We just, for those of you that were on other meetings, we did have our municipal working group just last week. So a lot of this is probably not new for those that have seen it. But initially, we had just under 500 depots that were registered through phase 1. We've done the cleanup, removed the duplicates, removed any phase 2 communities, down to 374. What we're looking at is just continuing to understand more. So the breakdown is 160 of those 374 are unstaffed, and 214 are staffed. They could be partially staffed as well. So the next piece here, is really following up with communities. I know some of you have reached out or heard from Faison. He's been really kind of leading this from our team. Other members as well. It's not a small lift. So we're really just trying to understand materials, trying to review any depot eligibility, trying to review those general ledger and cost survey data to identify gaps. And then we're setting up those meetings to review next steps for depots. So we're doing that in parallel with the curbside. That's been obviously a focus just because it's a little bit more sometimes convoluted to try to pull out those details, and especially with the contractors that are doing curbside pickup. So that is where we're doing, but we're now starting to get into the depot compensation stuff as well, and that will continue over the next 6 to 8 weeks as well. One of the things that we noticed is sometimes we have some postal codes, sometimes we have an address that's close, but it may not be exact. And as we map this out, we will just be reaching out to confirm. Sometimes it's longitude and latitude. We really want to understand exactly where they are. Sometimes if it's postal, it's across the street. So again, the more detailed and we can be, we just want to understand it. Again, for those that we don't have, we want to validate some of the materials that's accepted or not accepted. And again, only when we don't know or it's unclear through some of the information that was presented in through the ARMA registration or in our meetings previously. Where we want to confirm who's hauling the material, if there's a transfer in between. So let's say it's going to Edmonton, is there a stop between? We just want to understand more of that. I know not everybody will know. So that's where, again, this information is key to kind of help us understand and how we can best identify the information. Depot management, ownership, those are pieces that we're going to ask as well. And then any information on unstaffed depots or ungated depots. Is there an opportunity where we could staff or could gate? Again, these are all part of the negotiations that we would talk through, but if there's space in depots, again, we want to start to think about not just the first phase, but also what we can look at is to build out a more efficient program into the future as well. So this is really helpful for us to understand capabilities and the individual needs for each depot. So what you may see is the next slide is just something like this. So the email that you would be sent will have kind of pre-filled information that we already know. We really just want you to kind of review it, make sure if there's anything that doesn't look correct, and then just fill in any gaps. So you'll see a few of these emails coming in. For those of you who already have sent it back, we appreciate it. Again, this is all a lot of moving pieces that we're really trying to understand to build this program out. It gets into ICI, it gets into material, the hauling stuff, vehicle scales on site. So a lot of different things that we're just trying to unpack. And again, if you don't need to send everything back, we're just trying to fill in some gaps. I just want to reiterate, this is not starting back and asking for the same information you've filled in initially. This is going a bit more granular, or if we weren't sure of the information, we want to validate it. So this is the exercise that is important for us and important for the communities to really make sure that there's alignment and the data is validated and verified. I mentioned processing. The goal, and Sherry and Ben and our team are really leading this, building out the planning and the implementation. They've been on the road, as you all know, continuing to do that. So they'll be out on the road again, gathering more specific information. We really want to have that indicative pricing by the end of this week. That information from each registered processor. Once those phase 1 communities are determined, which I touched on earlier. So once we have agreements, confirmation on council, then we can finalize the material flow, reach out to those processors to negotiate what it looks like short or long term. And again, we're hoping and anticipating a mid to late September to get there. So again, a lot of good questions. And I think Molly is not the only community that has questions on what we can do and when. This is what we need. So it's one piece that we need validated, helps us build the next phase of the program. And we're looking forward because we're getting a lot closer to it. So I'll go to the next slide there for me again. And that's it. I mean, really what I wanted to mention is this last piece here is we are going to be on the road again. We're going to be in Bonnieville for the Alberta Care Fall Conference. We're probably going to be there a day early. If you're attending and again, you have some additional questions, we'd love to know. We haven't got a copy of kind of the attendees that are going there, But what I would say is if you're attending and there's something specific that we can get some FaceTime, I know myself, Sherry, I think Carrie from our team as well is coming out, and she's been really helpful on pulling some of these information for the GL. She's been doing it a very long time in different jurisdictions. So if you are attending and you'd like to have some time set aside, please send us an email at aboperations@circularmaterials.ca. And obviously, we'd love to see you there. We'll also be at the AB Munis Convention and Trade Show a little later on in September. And then our next municipal working group is coming up September 18th. So again, appreciate it. Just wanted to say thank you to every community. I know we're asking a lot. I know we're asking for short timelines, and we're getting a lot of information. So we appreciate the efforts, and obviously appreciate ARMA putting something like this on that just continues to enable us to connect and get a chance to hopefully answer some questions as well.
Thanks, John. Only a couple of next slide, please. I think we did pretty good there.
I think we did pretty good. Yeah.
Not bad. So we have one question in the chat from Michelle. I'll read it out for you here if you don't have it open. How do we know what step our community is at, or if you're waiting for / needing information from us?
So Michelle, I can reach out to you directly. Yeah, everybody should know we were asking to confirm opting in. If you've opted in, then that's where we would need, and we should, if there, maybe it could be a communication of someone that doesn't have the right email, but you should know exactly what step you're in terms of if you've opted in, because we're looking for GL information. We're setting up those next steps. We are reaching out if you've opted in and haven't sent in GL information. So I'll double check with our team, Michelle, just on where we are with your community. But you should know if you've opted out, then we are directly engaging with your service providers today. And if it's Depot, we will be following up shortly. We're waiting on a couple of things. I won't mention any names. We're working on a couple things there, and once we get some clarification, then we'll be continuing to reach out on the Depot side. So I will follow up on that, Michelle.
Sounds good. Thanks, John, and thanks for not naming any names. I will pass it back to you, Kayla. I don't see any other questions here.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks so much, Gavin. And thank you, John, for that update. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. This was a really great conversation. We had a lot of great presentations, and we really appreciate you joining us and your participation in answering those questions or asking those questions as well. As you mentioned right at the top, this recording from this session will be available later this week on the ARMA website for those that want to revisit the conversation. And for any additional EPR information, you can visit the ARMA website or connect directly with the ARMA team through email. Yeah, so thank you all again for joining us. And again, any questions, the ARMA team is there ready to help over email. Thanks, everyone.